Alright, so today we are going to be adding and subtracting radicals. So our first example, we have 6 times the square root of 7 plus 9 times the square root of 7. So we're basically taking what we did yesterday and doing two problems at once and combining them. So first thing we want to see is if we can break down the square root. So square root of 7, only thing that multiplies to make 7, we write this over on the side, is just 7 and 1. So there's no factor tree. Okay, we can't do anything with the square root of 7. So we go straight to the adding part. So when we're adding, it's a lot like taking 6x plus 9x. Okay, if we were going to add 6x plus 9x, we would get 15x. So it's the same idea here. We would only add these two numbers here, so 6 plus 9, which is 15. And just like with this x here, you don't change it. So we're not going to change the square root. So we're just going to get 15 square root of 7. And that is our answer. Okay, so for our second example, we have the square root of 27 minus the square root of 12. So in this problem, our square roots are not the same, okay, which means they're not like terms. So what we want to do is break these two square roots down and see if they could potentially have the same square root. So if we start with 27, we figure out what numbers multiply 27. We know those numbers are 9 and 3. Okay. And then we can continue to break down the 9 to 3 times 3. Okay. So we have these three numbers. We have to stop here. And we can rewrite those inside our square root. So instead of having the square root of 27, we have square root of 3 times 3 times 3. So we're going to do exactly like we did yesterday, and we're going to look for twins. So we have these two 3's here. This guy kills off his evil twin and can leave the castle. So we are going to get 3 square root 3. But remember, that's just the square root of 27. We now have to do the same thing to the square root of 12 and see if we can subtract our results. So for the square root of 12, there's more than one possibility for our first pair. I'm going to use 4 and 3. And then the 4 can be broken down into 2 times 2. So now we can't go any further, so we take our 3 prime factors here and write them inside the square root. So we have 2 times 2 times 3. So now we do the same exact thing. We look for twins. So we have right here a pair of 2's. So this guy kills off his evil twin and he can leave the castle. So we are now left with 2 square root of 3. So the square root of 27 becomes 3 square root of 3. Square root of 12 becomes 2 square root of 3. And remember, we're subtracting. So now we can do exactly what we did on example 1. Okay, we take the 3 and the 2 here, subtract them. So 3 minus 2 is 1. And we keep the square root of 3. We don't change it. So our answer is 1 square root 3. Or we don't really need the 1. We could also just write square root of 3 as our final answer. Okay, so for our third example, we're going to bring these two ideas together, combine it into one problem. So, again, if we look at this problem, our square roots are not the same. So as of right now, these two terms cannot be combined. So we want to look at the square roots and see if we can break them down. So let's start with the square root of 8, and 8 can be broken down into 4 times 2, which can then be broken down further. So the 4 becomes 2 times 2. So now we have 3 prime factors. Go ahead and write them inside the square root. So we have 2 times 2 times 2. But don't forget something. This 5 right here that's out in front of the square root, it's still going to be out in front. Okay, we will be doing something else with it later, but just keep bringing those numbers down. So we look inside our square root, we have twins. So this guy kills off his twin, and now he can leave the castle. So here, since there's already a 5 on the outside, and we're also bringing out the 2, what we're going to do is multiply them. So the 5 times 2 is 10. Okay, we still have the square root of 2. Okay. So 5 square root of 8 is equal to 10 square root of 2. Now if we look at this side, we can't do anything with 2. Okay, the only thing that multiplies to it is 1 and 2, and that's not going to help us. So we can go ahead and just bring this one straight down. So we can add 15 square root of 2 to what we previously had. Okay, and remember, only thing we want to add here is the 10 and the 15. So 10 plus 15 is 25. Okay, and we keep the square root of 2. We do not want to change that. And that is our answer.